So a few weeks ago I made a video going over Marjorie and her new viability against rebel leaders, both level 5s and 6s, and how that may be relevant to players more than ever now that she was added into the recruitment pass here. This seems to have at least partially stemmed out of a unlisted change as of a few updates ago to, I believe, certain commander guard skills, and through that how they interact with rebel damage, and through that rebel formations. And we really saw Marjorie be solidified in at least what I've found to be the most min-maxed formations against cavalry rebel leaders. And another commander that has risen to prominence through that is actually Rhea, which, whilst I think this information has spread at least a decent bit, may be quite surprising to some because she isn't a very high damaging commander, and I'm going to explain exactly why she can be so good for rebel leaders. And the interesting thing about her is, whilst she is infantry, so with Marjorie we saw her being good into cavalry, she obviously has the counter bonus there. Rhea, from what I've found, is actually best into infantry rebel leaders. And the reason for this is the way her first ability here, Concealed Blow, and her active ability prevent the rebel leaders from using their active abilities, and with infantry rebels, there are a few of those who have a stun attached to their actives, and obviously when you're stunned, you're not doing damage, so that alone, preventing the stun onto all 6 commanders, is going to increase your damage compared to alternative formations, and through that as well, she will help your tank from not dying as well. As a quick example of formation comparison, I go to my mail here. Before this update, from what would be maybe like 2 months ago now, maybe a bit more, formation I saw recommended mostly level 5 infantry with gold 4-star Enzo would be something like this, where you had Annie and Sheila, maybe 4-star Layla in this Mango spot, and this seemed to be about the sweet spot for maximizing damage output onto Enzo. Obviously, this would vary as your commanders vary. As you go down to the likes of green rarity, you had Egbert formations, maybe Egbert Rob, things like that. But just as a direct comparison here, this was what was being recommended mostly, and now this is what I find myself using against pretty much all infantry rebels now. So it's just the exact same thing, but with Rhea slotted into Sheila's spot in that formation. And I will show you in a video exactly how this works. So before we go into that, obviously Sheila will have significantly higher damage output by herself. She has a much higher damaging active ability. She has 4,000 more passive attack. So the value of Rhea preventing these stuns is going to have to be very, very significant to actually lead to this big of a damage swing. And the swings won't always be this big. They can be more marginal. And they will always vary just because of the nature of Enzo. There's no real way to avoid that. So if we go into the video here, I do have a direct comparison in a MP4 file there as well. So I'm just going to pause it for a second. So if we look at the video of the alternative formation that I've just shown, if I play it here, what you'll notice is at 39 seconds, the black is there will use his active here, and you see that little swirl, that means stunned, and you'll see all 6 of my commanders here are stunned, and if I click play again, you will notice just how long this lasts. So it lasts through 38 there, 37, 36, then you have Enzo use his active on 36, and normal attacks resume on 35. So in terms of normal attack prevention, this is actually lasting 4 seconds, which is 10% of the entire fight practically, because they only start attacking at about 40 seconds. So in that 10% of the fight, they're obviously not normal attacking, they're not generating might, so you're losing uptime and stuff like Fion's active, where he'll stack his attack higher. That will cast later in the fight now. and he'll benefit less from the additional stats. And it really does have a snowball effect of the lost uptime really having a huge influence in the actual amount of damage you do. And just before I play the actual video of the Rhea formation, you will note as well, I go near the end of this video, that Enzo does die. He gets a lot of damage off as he reaches low amounts of health. You'll see he'll die with about 10 seconds left. So if we go back to this and play it through, remember that 39 seconds stun? If we just watch out for that, there is no stun. All my commanders are still attacking. There's no downtime whatsoever. And they're just going to continue doing damage throughout the entire fight, and he won't even get one stun off. So the reason for this, if I can pause it at the right time, be the concealed blow pop-up. There we go. So concealed blow, you see that every time that procs, I'm sure it was proccing and just not showing visually before that. But through that and through her silence on her active ability, she will totally prevent all stuns from the Rebel Leader, and your full formation will have 100% uptime throughout the whole fight. And you'll note as well, Enzo is not dying because of this as well. So Enzo lasts the entire fight here, rather than dying at 10 seconds, despite the fact the only support commander we actually have is Annie, which is the exact same in the other formation as well. And the only real difference here between tank support is the active prevention and silence from Rhea versus the stuns on Sheila's active, which is actually quite significant because whilst it's stunned, it can't attack or use its active either, obviously. But that does help put into perspective just how good Rhea's might reduction is. So if you haven't tried any formations against infantry rebels with Rhea in them, particularly if you have a 4-star Enzo, I would very much recommend at least trying it. They are, in my experience at least, the most meta formations for maximized damage against infantry in the current state of the game.